Hello, everyone, and welcome to IDW Presents Sonic the Hedgehog comics. I'm David Mariotte. I'll be your moderator. I'm also the editor of IDW Sonic comics. In this panel, we're going to be talking about our, Sonic comics that were coming out through IDW, as well as Sonic's upcoming 30th anniversary, and some secrets that you may not know just yet. Joining me are Ian Flynn, a longtime Sonic writer, and currently working on Sonic the Hedgehog Bad Guys. Jack Lawrence, the artist on Sonic Bad Guys and frequent contributor to the ongoing. Evan Stanley, the writer and illustrator of the ongoing series right now. And Mike Cisneros, manager of licensing at SEGA of America. So, everyone, thank you for joining us. I want to start out talking about the ongoing series. So, Evan, can you tell us a little bit about Chow Races and Badnik Bases, the current storyline starting in issue number 33?
Sure. Well, Chow Races and Badnik Bases is a 4-part series that is kind of a more self-contained mystery heist kind of story to give us something with a little lower stakes, but still a ton of intrigue where we get to have some fun with some characters that don't often get a lot of time in the spotlight. So as kind of a change of pace from the last arc, which had a huge scope and an enormous cast.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is happening in what we have been calling Crab is the introduction of a couple of new characters.
Yeah.
There is both Clutch the Opossum and our new character Belle. Can you talk a little bit, you and also Mike from the SEGA side, about creating a new character for Sonic and what that process is like?
Looking at it from the purely creative perspective, my goal is looking at, okay, what kind of characters do we already have in the series, and what are some new roles and archetypes that could fit into that dynamic and fill out the cast and give us more storytelling options. So I look at that and it's like, okay, what could we do? Oh, there's an idea. If I made that kind of character, what kind of stories could I tell with them? And if I want to tell that kind of story, what sort of traits and background does that character need? So it's kind of like a back and forth of asking questions like, what do I need to do this? If I do that, then where does it need to go from there? So you kind of build up with like if-then questions. It's kind of the same, and that's like the story side for me. And then the visual side, you're focusing on what design elements do you need to focus on to illustrate who the character is from a glance? Can you tell? And it's like, so I usually pick out a few identifying features and then try to incorporate those into established Sonic character design elements so that they still feel like they fit into the universe. And Belle is a really interesting example of that. Am I allowed to talk about her?
Yeah, a little bit.
For Belle's design, she's a robot, but she's made out of wood. So the idea is, okay, we have lots of robots. None of them are made out of wood. If she's made out of wood, what does that mean about her creation and how she interacts with the world and what her design elements focus on? So it's like I started from that, we've never done marionettes and puppets before. How would that look in Sonic and how would that operate?
Yeah. Our side, we look at things pretty similarly. We look at largely how does a new character fit into Sonic's world? How would Belle fit in with Sonic and his friends, or how would that character potentially interact? What are some of the kind of more interesting aspects that separate that from the other roster of characters that we have that we're working against? And also to make sure that whatever it is that you're working on also tends to read for the audience too. Like when you mentioned it was a robot, we were like, okay, how do we make it look instantly recognizable as a robot. Like when we're pulling up roll call or like a bus shot or something of the character, like one of the last editions where some of the line, like the marionette line marks on the mouth, you know, something like that.
Thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that was, I think that was added later because it was hard to tell that she was a robot in the earlier drafts. But yeah, I mean, that's how we look at it too. We like to fill out the world and make sure that they just make sense to be there. And, you know, so far, like we have a great cast of new characters involved in the series.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that great cast of new characters involved in the series, thank you for the excellent transition, Mike.
I'm here to
Dr.
help.
Starline is the lead of Sonic Bad Guys. Ian and Jack, you want to tell us a little bit about what Sonic Bad Guys is?
Well, one of the major themes within Sonic overall is the superpower of teamwork. And we see a lot of Sonic and his friends coming together and, you know, synergizing and being a greater unit as they come together and be friends and help each other and whatnot. And Bad Guys kind of turns that on its head because over the past year and a half, we've introduced a lot of new villainous elements. So it's kind of fun to just put them all in one jar and shake it up really hard and see all the chaos that ensues.
Jack, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think Ian wrote it, so he knows exactly what he's talking about. I think that it's anytime you deal with villains, you're looking at that exactly as Ian said, turning stuff on its head, and it has cemented certainly Starline and Mimic as like two of my favorite characters, not just in Sonic, but like I think of all time. It's wrong and it's naughty and it's just gleeful for that. I love it.
Well, I may have wrote it, but you drew it, man. You have some of the most delightfully arrogant and just slimy Starline. He's so dapper, and yet you're just kind of like, ew, stay 10 feet away from me, dude. You are bad news. But he's just so stylish at the same time.
I genuinely hate that kind of character. I hate arrogant, well, not character, but people. I hate arrogant people and I hate slimy people. I'm very down to earth and I'm a bit common. I just don't get on with that kind of snootiness, but I love drawing it. And I can't stand Eggman. I just absolutely loathe him, but in the right way. It means that he's a great villain because I just can't stand him. I think it's all the hours and hours I've spent fighting him, but I just don't like him. But to draw him and to really push those just vile characteristics that I can't stand, it's so much fun. There's not a goody two shoes among them.
So you guys mentioned, the griminess is part of the greatness. So what is it about working with the bad boys, the villains, that is so different and, intriguing as opposed to working with Sonic and the heroes?
Well, there's a kind of freedom in the storytelling in that with the heroes, you want them to succeed. They are confronted with adversity and you worry about them and you hope that they come out better in the end. With the bad guys, by the nature of the story, they are the protagonists, so you want to see how they win, but you also don't want them to win. So as bad things happen to them, like, yeah, you're losing. And when they're winning, like, yeah, you're winning. So no matter what, the reader is coming out on top in the end. And it's also fun because, with the heroes, if things turn sour and they kind of, bicker or maybe turn on themselves a little bit, you're like, no, guys, calm down. You're friends. Work it out. Don't be like this. But with the bad guys, the minute they turn on each other, you're like, yeah, go for the throat. How is this going to turn into a giant flaming disaster? I can't wait.
Yeah, totally. I think that as I mentioned before, that being able to push those. I love drawing emotion and character beats, and being able to push those towards the. You wouldn't want your hero to look smug And in fact, you're kind of pulled up on that sometimes in the notes. So he looks a little too smug. So can you tone that down? But who's going to say Starline looks a bit too smug? You can just go for it. And yeah, it's what comics are for me, or should be for me, that I so rarely find in comics, and that's just fun, just suitable for everyone, a little bit naughty, and just good fun.
Awesome. So, question for sort of everyone: what's it been like coordinating Sonic as an ongoing and Bad Guys? Like, this is the first time we've actually had two writers working in the IDW Sonic universe at the same time, other than the annuals. So what's it like, particularly for Ian and Evan, having to work out how stories get told and who's playing with what character when and things like that?
Well, in my case, it was kind of relieving because after the Metal Virus saga, it's like, okay, what do I do now? And you're like, I think Evan should take the lead for a bit. It's like, it's Evan's problem now. Have fun with that.
At least for Crab, it worked out really well.
And overall, with just a lot of back and forth, it's like, okay, Evan, this is your show. What do you want to do? And if I have stories, where can they fit? Where can they bolster yours? What ideas do you have that I can incorporate into mine? What ideas do I have that you might want to use in yours? And just a lot of talking back and forth and working together and see how to help each other out.
Yeah, it was really nice that actually we came up with we have two very separate storylines for the most part, but with kind of the themes reinforce each other a lot, which came out really well. And I like that, where it's like the stories are separate, but thematically they support and make each one more interesting.
I think that is all very fair, and I'm really excited for people to get the whole picture when they read both stories. Jack, for you, what's it like? I know I've sent you some ref from issue 33, and I think I've done the same to Evan with ref from Bad Guys. So what is it like coordinating on the art side?
Well, I mean, I didn't really think about that side of it until that email that you sent with that reference. And I incidentally only saw that today as well. I know you sent it yesterday, but for some reason I only saw it today. For me, that's the first I knew about it. But I'm fine with that. If it's, I'm just the guy. You tell me what to do, and I'll do it. If something needs to change because the continuity is the most important thing. It irritates me to no end if there is no continuity in between issues of comics, and if that comes down to me changing something so that the continuity works, then so be it. I'm just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at I saw some of your examples of action shots with Starline, and it's like, oh, I need to do that now. That's cool. Saving that for later.
Yeah, well, we had we went a bit too. I went a bit too far early on, and we had to tone that back. I had to tone that back a little bit. But as I think from the pages that I'm doing now, the over the top action is good to go. So yeah, go for it.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, on our side too, we're always looking to do things a little more holistically, so we think on the SEGA side, we always have to take a step back and make sure that both series are accessible to audiences. So if somebody is picking up the mainline series, they don't necessarily need to pick up the Bad Guy spinoff to understand what's happening, and then vice versa. So that's what we're looking for, just to make sure that everything is a pleasurable experience for our audiences.
Yeah, and it's true. They're very complementary without being, 100% necessary. Though, yeah. Of course, go pick them both up. You're gonna like them.
They're good.
So, Sonic 2021 is Sonic's 30th anniversary, and we have some big plans for the ongoing. Speaking of coordination, Evan and Ian, do you want to lay out the next two storylines just a little bit so people know what's coming?
Yeah, I think I'm next. After Crab, it's another one with me, which is, I think, a 4-parter, which is currently titled Test Run. That's about Sonic, Tails, and Amy getting trapped inside of a tower, which Eggman is using to do experiments on new technologies for his various nefarious purposes. And they're trying to survive the various levels of the tower and hopefully escape. Well, meanwhile, Tangle and Belle are sabotaging the tower from behind the scenes. Yeah, and it's like, and it gets the experiments get kind of trippy, and it's hopefully going to be something kind of like a more fanciful sci-fi take with a little bit of extra spookiness.
Fun.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
And then after that, at the end of Metal Virus, 5 of the Deadly 6 were unaccounted for. They're just out in the wild. And there's going to be some fallout from bad guys that will deal with Zavok. So that's a lot of Zeddy that need to be answered for. So we're going to answer that.
Very exciting. All right, so now I want to move on to some more, general Q&A, the sort of stuff that you'd expect to hear on a panel. So first off, in everyone's opinion, who is the most interesting and challenging character to work on in Sonic's world?
I kind of, this is going to sound like I am saying this because I feel I have to, but I'm genuinely not. For me, it's got to be Starline. I think he's so, I guess complicated is the word. He's on the surface, certainly at the start, you could be forgiven thinking he's just a fanboy, but it goes way deeper than that, and that's was what we were exploring in Bad Guys, and I just, as much as he makes my skin crawl, I just love him, and I think he's a brilliant creation.
I'd say for me, the most challenging in terms of like acting and writing would be Shadow, because he's a character where he won't say what he means. And you really have to, and he's also not very emotive, like visually. So you have to do a lot of really subtle work with very precise word choice and body language, much more than a lot of the other characters. But then also like on just a simple technical level, probably the hardest for me to draw is Eggman, just because he's very complicated. He's very different. He's usually around really complicated things. So it's like, I'm just like, oh God, why? Yeah. But he usually has some of the biggest rewards where it's like, you draw it right. It's like, oh man, looks so good.
A good Eggman is a hard thing to beat. Eating eggs. Thank you.
Rim shot.
I guess for me, Jack kind of put a point on it with Starline, is that his character is evolving and we're exploring him in a lot of ways. One of the challenges is with a lot of the new characters is, we introduce them as at a certain point in their lives, and a lot of them have seen a lot of growth and change over time. So it becomes a question of where do you take them now that it keeps them recognizable, but doesn't stick them in a holding pattern. One of the things that is going to be challenging for me, and I'm looking forward to it a lot, is when we do more with Whisper, because she was a very damaged individual when we first met her, and now she's come through to a much better place. So what does she do with that? Where does she go from here? And that's going to be a tricky question to answer.
Yeah, in general, it's some of these characters are difficult just because of, how they do have a deep history and how they are, supposed to act, I guess, for part of their character biology or what's in their DNA. And, some of the best stuff is it's like, oh my God, I think I don't think they're going to let this happen. So we got to creatively work to try to come up with, some good suggestions. And oftentimes those suggestions, even though like internally it takes us a lot of deliberating just to like come up with like, this is going to work. But oftentimes those actually turn out to be some of like the better ways that things have happened, and overall it keeps the characters true. So it's a lot more work for some of them, like Evan nailed it. Shadow's like by far probably one of the most difficult characters to review. Omega's also a challenge, to be honest. But it's just but we do it with like the intentions. Of course, we don't want to like stifle creativity, but we also want to keep the brand. We want to assure that the characters are the characters at any story you read.
And everyone here clearly does a great job of what they're doing and can figure out the challenges of a reserved Shadow and things like that. And hey, it's fun. So everyone here has worked on or admired Sonic for a really long time. What is it about Sonic that keeps you coming back to the franchise year after year?
Well, one thing that for me, it's like, it's a series that has a lot more variety than a lot of other similar kind of like kids entertainment franchises, where it's like it's gone to a lot of different places and it's explored a lot of different genres and styles of story and styles of character. So you can really find something new almost every time you go back, or you can approach something from a new angle, or you can look up source like inspiration and sources for some element of the art or story and learn about something new. And it's like that kind of variety and opportunity for tangential like exploration has really kept me coming back over and over again.
I'm going to reiterate what Jack said earlier about bad guys, but I think it applies to the entire franchise. Is it's accessible and it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really all there is to it. It's bright, it's colorful, it's adventurous. You can pretty much dive in anywhere, and it's weird and it's wild, and who cares because you're having a good time.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. I was 15 when the original first game came out over here. And it's just, at that age, and it was so different for its time as well, that it was the kind of thing that just got into my heart and stayed there.
Yeah, it is. It's just plain fun. That's all it really boils down to. But it's like, but there's so much you can do with these characters and all the characters that fill out the world, and each one has a very interesting backstory to them that you can also explore. And what happens when you put these two characters with each other, or when we throw this bad guy into the mix, how are they going to react to this situation? There's this, like, the possibilities are endless. So there's always a reason to kind of come back to the trough to eat more Sonic deliciousness. That was a bad analogy.
So sort of building off of that, clearly fun is an important element of Sonic, and the characters in their world are so important. How do you guys incorporate the themes of Sonic into your work? I know, I'm asking all the tough questions this time.
These questions are tough.
Well, at its absolute basis, Sonic is all about freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom of identity.
Yeah.
And Eggman is all about control, about dominating others, instilling his will and his structure upon individuals and the environment, and those are diametrically opposed. So the immediate meeting of the two is fertile ground for conflict. And when you have such a big bombastic personality like Eggman, and you have Sonic, who is always going to have the right quip at the right time and just be cool about it, it's interesting because you have that very accessible and relatable conflict, and you have these really charming and engaging characters that are just going at it with giant robots and flying around like a living cannonball. So it's really kind of easy to get into because it's just so much fun right then and there.
Yeah, it feels like if you keep, because Sonic himself is such an intense embodiment of the series themes. If he stays on point, you'll get there. And so it really is just the making sure the character dynamics stay strong. The themes will become apparent, like Ian said.
A wonderful answer. So I know this is going to be hard to pick, but what's your favorite Sonic thing, be it a game, piece of merch, snack, soundtrack, whatever, that you didn't work on?
For me, that's actually quite an easy one. It's the Sonic Forces score. I just think that is one of the it's on my iPod, and it's almost a daily listen. It's because I'm a big movie score. I don't really listen to anything other than movie scores, and I mean some theatre. I'm a bit of a theatre nerd, but yeah, it's one of the best scores for anything. It's so emotive, and there's the military aspect. It's brilliant. I love it.
Well, now I need to know, do you listen to it while you're working on pages?
Yes, absolutely. Because I have a Sonic playlist on my iPod, which has 1, 2, Sonic Adventure 2, Forces, Sonic CD, both the European and the American. They're the ones, American versions. And there is another one that I can't think what it is. But yeah, absolutely. That's when I'm definitely especially when I'm inking. Just lose myself in it.
This might be cheating a little bit since I did kind of put the characters together and come up with the moniker for the team, but I have a full set of Team Hooligan in the original Sonic the Fighters plushies. And they are safely tucked away so that the elements may not touch them. I may let them see the light of day at some point just to bask in their glory, but by dinging, I've got a bean, I've got a fang, I've got a bark, and no, I'm not going to tell you how much money that was spent.
Yeah, I gotta go get mine. Hold on.
All right.
Okay.
Show and tell.
I'm going to flex on me now. Okay. I see how it is.
Yeah. So.
Okay, my thing that I only have 3 of the books here, but it's not a game. It is my favorite thing that's not a game and not something I worked on is this series of books.
Oh, wow.
And I have all 4 of them. It's in the other room. But these beautiful, horrible books by Martin Adams, which is actually a pen name for like 3 guys, are completely insane. Ridiculous. It's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but Sonic, and nobody cares, so they just did whatever they wanted. I believe in this one, Sonic turns into a toaster and has to communicate via toaster waffle Morse code. And that's like surface level crazy in these books.
Wow.
They are beautiful. Please read them if you can find them.
All right. I guess I'm just gonna. I thought someone's gonna take this, but I think my favorite Sonic thing I didn't work on was the Sonic OVA. That thing is spectacular. I thought that someone was gonna steal that one, but I'm glad.
I will say, just because of Evan, my second favorite is, in fact, the actual Sonic toaster.
Yay.
And my first is the Sonic Adventure Big the Cat action figure, which sits at my desk at work, because of course he does.
Of course he does.
With Froggy. So, thank you all for joining us. Just a reminder for folks, Sonic the Hedgehog is on sale right now at your favorite comic book store. Issues 33 and 34 should both be out this month. As should Bad Guys numbers 1 and 2. We have the rest of the series coming out soon. Please check with your local shop for specific dates. We also have the continued program for the graphic novel collections. The newest one, Volume 7, should be out in November. We have the Spanish language graphic novel programs, which are amazing, and it is so cool to see Sonic coming to folks in Spanish. It is, at this point, I think IDW's only licensed title that's doing that, and it's because so many people love Sonic. So thank you for your support there. And then, yeah, there will be more Sonic to come in 2021. We have a lot more announcements on that horizon, but those are for another day. As Ian is so fond of saying, there's a knowing smile or two there. So again, thank you to my panelists for participating. Thank you to the audience for coming and watching us talk about Sonic for a while. And before we go, I want to ask one final question of everyone. You knew about this ahead of time, so I hope you've given it some thought. Who are your top 3 Sonic characters?
The answer changes like every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not fair. Well, my right now, I'm gonna say this changes all the time. Today, it is Sonic, Silver, and Tikal.
Yeah, I'm definitely being influenced by what I'm working on right now, because Evan's just beaten me to Silver. I wasn't going to say Silver, but I absolutely love Silver. But because of what I'm working on right now, at number 3 is Rough and Tumble. They've got to go as a pair. I'm sorry. I'm going to cheat on this. Rough and Tumble. Number 2, Starline. But number 1 is Mimic at the moment. I just think he's brilliant.
Yeah, he is really excellent. Mike or Ian?
You're asking me to choose between my children, but in no particular order, the 3 that I will always try to find an opportunity to work with are Dr. Eggman, Knuckles, and Bean the Dynamite.
I got to go with my number 1 is Knuckles, just because I feel like that was the character that really got me into Sonic before. Like, I played Sonic, Sonic 1 and 2, and it was, just something I played. But the one I really got excited for was the first time was Knuckles, when Sonic and Knuckles came out. So I'll say Knuckles is number 1. Tangle would be 2. And 3 would probably be Rouge. I really think that she has a really interesting character that can be explored a lot.
Good taste.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll be getting some of that in Crab. Anyway, Mike, I can't fire you, but the rest of you guys didn't say Big the Cat. So thanks for joining us on Sonic. But
we thought you were going to take
top 3
that one.
favorites. You worship Big. Big is love. Big is life.
I mean, all 3 of my top 3 favorites are Big the Cat. So
there you go.
Yeah. All right. Thank you again for joining us. This has been IDW Presents Sonic the Hedgehog comics at New York Comic Con Online.